This rough piece of English walnut doesn't look like much, but in this video I'm going to turn it into a beautiful shelf that's a little different.
I've had this slab and this idea for years, just sat in the shed and in the back of my mind gathering dust, and it's actually a project I've built once before using a similar slab, but it was before I started filming things. And I think it's a really nice project to do using a slab like this, and I want to show you guys how I did it.
Looking at it, it doesn't look particularly remarkable. It's warped, cracked and generally a little dull, as most rough sawn slabs are. I got this one years ago on eBay when I was first getting into working with hardwoods, and it's actually a leftover piece from a few larger slabs which I've used for a variety of projects over the last couple of years. My plan with this project is to use just this one slab for the entire build, which isn't a particularly tricky or special thing to do, but there is something quite nice about the entire project being right here in this slab. The more woodworking I do and the more projects I undertake, the more I'm starting to learn about wood and the different challenges you encounter when working with different types and species. This project, for example, is starting with a rough sawn slab. It basically takes a little bit longer, and a little more thinking needs to go into the milling of the wood before I get to the building part. But that's what makes working with live edge slabs so special, and the design of this shelf requires it.
Okay, that's my three main components. The next step is going to be flattening one face on each piece so that I can send them through the thicknesser.
Adding these dog holes to the bench has made a massive difference, as trying to clamp this piece down to the workbench or into the vise would have been pretty tricky otherwise. Planing a rough sawn piece of wood is tough work, even with a sharp plane, but it's also pretty cool when you see the beautiful wood underneath get revealed. And this piece of wood has some rather lovely spalting going on.
Alright, that's one board mostly flat and smooth. Time to move on to the others.
I'm only flattening one face because the thicknesser references that face. If I sent this through while it was still warped, it'd just end up smooth and still warped. But for now I'm just enjoying the hand planing. Lovely and flat.
Alright, so that is two pieces flattened on one side, at least flat enough to go through the thicknesser so that I can get them perfectly flat on both sides and a little bit thinner.
As you can see, I don't use this very often because it's mega loud, mega dusty, and I have to snake a 45-meter extension cord from the window of my first floor flat, which for any Americans watching is the second floor.
Alright, let's make some dust and make some noise.
Ten noisy and dusty minutes later, and I've got some nice smooth flat boards. And then another 10 minutes of workshop cleanup.
Alright, so I've got the two nice smooth flat pieces of wood ready for the next step. I've got a few things that I could do now. I could tackle this crack and potentially add a small bow tie, although the space I've got to work with, it would have to be quite a small bow tie unless I did it in the end grain, but that sounds quite tricky. The other thing I need to do is shape this down into a round rail, and it probably would have been smart to run it through the thicknesser a few times to get it down to a perfect square first, but I forgot. So we'll whip out the hand plane and focus on this while we think about how to do the other bits.
I mentioned earlier about how working with different types of wood presents different challenges, and this is a perfect example of that. Because I'm using just this slab, and I've cut this rail from the middle of the slab, the grain changes direction along the length of the piece. So, to get it smooth and avoid tear out, I have to adjust my planing direction. And that's one of those things which I'm learning a little more of and getting better at each time I make something.
Figured the saw might be slightly quicker than planing here. There we go. One square and one tiny plank in case I want to make a shelf for a mouse. All right, so that is a square, or as near as makes no difference. The next thing I'm going to do is turn it down into a cylinder. And when I say turn it down into a cylinder, I mean plane it down, because I don't have a lathe.
I've done this a bunch of times now, and it's a really effective way to get a near perfect cylinder, or I guess a dowel, from a square piece of wood. You basically plane the corners down until you get an octagon, and then plane the corners on that until it's starting to look cylindrical, switching to a spoke shave to refine things. And I actually think it looks better if it's not a micron perfect cylinder. A few little reminders that this is handmade. Right, onto the crack and a new technique for me: bow ties. I'm cutting some little template pieces from card first so I can gauge the size that will look right. And, of course, it's the smallest one, which will probably make things a little trickier. But at least if I mess it up, I can make it bigger. But I won't mess up. And if you're wondering what on earth I'm talking about bow ties for, well, it's a decorative technique to stabilize a crack in a piece of wood like this. If I fast forward for a second, you can see just how much this wood is moving while I chop out the hole for the bow tie, which isn't good. Before I got to the chopping though, I marked the edges with a knife so that I can hopefully get a nice crisp edge once the bow tie is inlaid. As you can see, the bow tie is made from maple, which was kind of an automatic decision to use as it contrasts nicely with the walnut, and these two are a classic wood pairing. But as I sit here recording this voiceover, I'm wondering if a walnut bow tie would have been better. It would still serve its primary function to reinforce the crack, and you'd still see it if you were looking, but it would be a little less, "Hey, look at me, I'm a bow tie." What do you think? Maple bow tie or walnut bow tie?
Not bad for a first attempt.
You can see now that this is much sturdier, but the crack and its inherent character can be retained. Another piece of character I'm obviously retaining is the live edge, but it doesn't need all of the loose bark, so I'm removing that. And I started with a chisel, but soon switched to a wire wheel in the drill, which was much more effective. One corner of the shelf was damaged, and I wanted to retain the shape but not have it look like a piece that had accidentally been chipped off. So I used a rasp and sandpaper to shape it down to something a little more natural looking. And then sanded the rest of the live edge, as some areas were pretty sharp.
Okay, so I've got my three basic shelf components. I've got the shelf top, the shelf back, and the hanging rail, which will hang underneath. And I think the next step before I attach the hanging rail is to take these two pieces and cut a nice square straight edge on here, and then I'll be able to cut these two ends square to that straight edge. And then I'll be able to take the shelf top and the underside, join them together a little bit, something like this, attach the rail underneath, and we'll be almost there.
At some point, I think I need to create a better system for making track saw cuts on the workbench. At the moment, I just grab whatever random pieces of MDF or plywood are hanging around, but they're often too small or a bit wonky, and it ends up making things just a little more difficult than it needs to be. And probably a short length of track would be useful too. I did make a little mistake here, but it wasn't because of the track saw.
So, a little bit of a mistake. As I was trimming these ends, I've trimmed very, very close to this bow tie, and it's like really close to the edge there, which I don't think looks very good because there's a gap on this edge and then no gap on this edge. It just looks a little bit uneven, a little bit unbalanced, and I don't think it looks very good essentially. So I've got a couple of options. One option is to live with it, stick with it as it is, and just accept that it's you know, a little bit funny looking. The other option is to trim this whole edge off and then do a fresh bow tie. Not sure which one I'm going to do yet. So...
And then the camera fell over.
Okay, so had a tidy up, had a sandwich, had a think, and then just almost dropped the camera. Well, not almost, I did drop the camera, but it's fine. And while I was thinking, what I realized is that once the shelf is together, this bow tie is actually on the underside and therefore isn't super visible. So once again, I have a couple of choices. Either I can leave it as it is, or I can fix it by doing a little walnut patch.
I opted to do the walnut patch because A, it'll make it less obvious, and B, I just want to have a go at doing a patch. Sometimes the only justification you need for doing a particular thing is that it will be fun and you want to do it. How often do you do something in the workshop just because it's fun? Similarly to the bow tie, I marked everything out with a knife, routed as close to the line as I could, then finished the rest with a chisel. And after a bit of fettling, it fit perfectly. And after a bit of sanding, the patch blended really well. That is, right up until I made a rookie mistake. I'll fix that later.
Okay, so I've got these pieces trimmed and sanded, and they're looking pretty good. I've also repaired the corner where I had the problematic bow tie, and that's looking much better now. Next thing I need to do is think about attaching the rail. And I think what I'm going to do is chop a little piece off either end, put those short pieces on the underside of the shelf, like so, and then with the remaining long piece, put that in between those two. I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to join those yet, but that's more or less the plan.
My plan was to do a blind wedged mortise and tenon, which should lock everything securely into the underside of the shelf. And rather than trying to cut tenons on a round piece, I made them from another offcut while it was still square. And while the pieces were still square, I also drilled the holes for the hanging rail before turning them into cylinders. And just like that, I've got my rail holding pieces. To fit the rail, I tapered the ends with a chisel and spoke shave until they slid neatly into the holes. And they fit really well, but...
Just spent all that time shaping the ends, and I forgot to trim it first. So, time to trim it, shape it again. Alright, that's a little better.
Right, onto the glue-up process. And this one was a little finicky, as the wedges for the tenons were so small. But I got there in the end, and hopefully they'll do their job and add some decent pressure to the inside of the mortise and stop the rail from falling out. At this point, or maybe even earlier in the video, you might be asking, why are you building a shelf with a rail anyway? Why does a shelf need a rail? Well, I mentioned earlier in the video that I'd made one of these before. That one was for my girlfriend, now fiancée, to hang her macrame creations from. And it can be used to work on them or display them. And I bet there are a few other things you could use it for too. And because we already have one of these shelves, this one's going on my website. One of the things I'm trying this year is making small batches of furniture, tools, or other handmade objects to discover what I enjoy making and what people connect with. And any money I make, I'll invest back into the workshop, future projects, and the YouTube channel. The rail went in pretty well and felt pretty solid, and at this point there's only a couple of things left to do on the build, and when I get close to finishing projects, I usually start to think about scripting my video. I've been recording the whole process and I have some idea of how I'm going to edit and what I'm going to say, but the thing I often get stuck on is the why. Why make this? Why make a video about it? And why would anyone choose to spend 20 minutes watching that video? I think for me it's because I genuinely enjoy every part of it. I enjoy woodworking, I enjoy filming, I enjoy editing, and I enjoy sitting here recording this voiceover. and hopefully that enjoyment comes through in the finished video. I also like to keep things fairly grounded. I have a fairly simple setup and workshop, and I make a fair few mistakes. But in time I want to build bigger, better and higher quality projects, whilst keeping things simple. If you've enjoyed this one so far, and if you'd like to see what I make next, consider subscribing. Right, let's finish this one off. It's quite nice to think that everything in the finished piece came from that one slab of walnut. A piece of wood that sat in the corner of my workshop for years has turned into something that will hopefully be used and enjoyed for years to come. And I'd say that's a pretty good outcome.